A grumble this technician hears about the care and feeding of vintage British cars is battery life. People say they get a few years, some get much more life, from the battery in their modern cars they drive every day. Those same people say the same kind of battery is lucky to get just a couple of years when installed in their vintage cars. Do our vintage British cars shorten the lifespan of a battery? Yes, they often do. But it's not the car that's to blame. Let's take a look at this. Let's begin by talking about the batteries we normally associate with vintage cars. These are the batteries that have caps. This one, usually there's 6. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one has gang caps, so I'm going to pop one off for you. Okay, and there's your 3 cells here. There's 3 more there, and 3 of them are in one cap, and that's how it works together. Let's put that back. Okay. The caps are removable so we can add distilled water from time to time as needed. These batteries are also called flooded batteries, spillable batteries, wet cell batteries. Technically, they're called lead-acid batteries. There are 2 active ingredients in this battery. One is sulfuric acid in a mix of 1/3 sulfuric acid and 2/3 water. We call the mix electrolyte. The other ingredient is lead, so there are lead plates hanging in here. Let me see if I can do this for us. You can hear it. It's full of electrolyte. This is heavy. Between the liquid and the lead, this is a heavy battery. Now, if this battery goes unused for a while, these batteries will discharge all by themselves. And they'll discharge even faster if there's a small current draw in the car, a parasite. Let me show you. Let's just imagine for a minute this is a cable in the car, okay? And she's connected to the battery. At the end, the vinyl has been removed because there's a connection on here which is going to go to whatever it's going to feed, the solenoid or whatever. And over here, let's say that this is a piece of the frame of the car. This is ground. Well, normally having something with power or something with ground so close is dangerous because if they touch, they're going to short. But these are secure. And there's a 1/4 inch of gap in there, so we're not worried at all because there's no way in the world 12 volts is ever going to jump across a 1/4 inch gap. So we're fine. But imagine that over time a little bit of corrosion gets in there, a little bit of dust, a little bit of dirt, a little bit of moisture, some other things get in there, and they collect in there, and they form a small bridge from the one to the other. The bridge is not a very good conductor, but it will conduct, and as it does, it serves as a parasite. So the battery discharges all by itself anyway, and then she's going to be pulling more fluid out from here. We're going to lose more charge 2 ways. Okay. Now, these cars are often stored for parts of the year. When the car is stored, the effects of natural discharge and parasites mean the battery often needs to be recharged when we bring it out of hibernation. At that point, we're already in trouble, and in many cases, more trouble is coming. A discharged battery will develop sulfation. Let me see if I can explain what that is. I'm going to take a pad here. Let's imagine that this is one of the lead plates that's inside this battery. There's a lot of them in there. Okay, we already know this is full of the electrolyte, so I'm just going to go to represent the electrolyte. Okay, now, as the battery goes down in charge, some of the sulfur that's in sulfuric acid will come out of the acid and adhere itself to various places on this plate. Okay, and let those represent that. Where these places are, when it's time for the interaction between the electrolyte and the lead plates, it will not happen because these block it. So we say, well, is that important? Well, let's just assume for the sake of a number, that let's say that 8% of this is covered with this sulfation. Okay? That means that when I turn the key in the morning and I'm trying to start this car, 8% of what this could be sending is not going to come. It can't get out. And then after the car starts and the generator is trying to recharge us after the start, I can't get back in through 8% of the places. Same thing. Okay? So this business of letting it discharge results in sulfation and harm to the battery. Now, after the battery has been hibernating for a while, okay, we traditionally either put a vintage battery charger on the battery, like you see here, or we jumpstart the car and let the generator charge the battery. Using a vintage battery charger on a battery with caps is fine. Just keep an eye on it. Make sure it's filled the way it's supposed to be before you start with the distilled water. And then also check it from time to time to make sure it's not getting hot. If it is, back off on the charge. Now, some people charge them with a generator. Charging this battery with the generator, driving the car and letting the generator do the work is going to harm the generator. It's going to harm the battery. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, when you're there at YouTube, at the top of the screen, you've got a little place where you can do a search and type in MOS, motors, battery maintenance charger, enter. And in a moment, you'll have a video that's going to show you exactly what we're talking about, and you'll actually see the inside of a generator that's been destroyed this way. Now, batteries have changed. Okay? Batteries with regular caps that require distilled water from time to time are disappearing. Most new batteries still use a lead-acid reaction to make electricity, but they do it with some changes. Most new batteries are valve-regulated lead-acid batteries, or we call them VRLAs. Okay? And if they're not abused, if the battery is treated well, it may never need to have water added, or at the very most, very, very, very rarely. Okay? It just doesn't happen. Why? VRLA batteries are sealed. They resist spilling. That means that now if we're working, okay, and the battery will have some moisture coming up, and normally we just evaporate into the atmosphere around the battery and go away. That's why we had to put water back. But these are sealed. Any moisture which comes up out of the electrolyte while she's working is going to form condensation inside the battery and fall back in again. It doesn't go anywhere. These have small little caps that allow just a little bit of air to get in or out under certain circumstances to keep this sealed. There's one right inside here, and there's another one inside here. That's all she needs. Now, there's another battery that's becoming more popular. Let me see if I can push this out of the way and bring this one in. This is called an AGM battery. It stands for absorbent glass mat, or absorbed glass mat. Now, instead of having electrolytes sloshing around inside the battery, the lead plates are packed tightly between sheets of absorbent fiberglass mat. Let me show you. Okay, so then we have a lead plate, okay, lead sheet. We put that down. They put a piece of the AGM, the absorbent glass mat, on top of it, which has been treated. It's absorbed electrolyte. So I have lead, AGM, lead, AGM, lead, AGM. And when I get a stack of them, I can take it, I can turn it up, and I can put it right inside this battery. That's one of the 6 cells. Now, instead of having the electrolyte sloshing around, the lead plates are packed tightly together between the sheets of absorbent. That allows it to conduct the electricity more accurately, more efficiently, if you will, because there's no distance from one to the next. Each one is touched snug up against the next one. These also, listen carefully, you don't hear any fluid in there. There isn't any fluid in there. It's just what's absorbed inside the glass mat inside there. It's spill-proof. Nothing's going to come out of this. And if you've got one of those cars that used to have 2 6-volt batteries, you can put one 12-volt battery in one hole and stand this on its side. It will not leak. You can even lay it on its back. It will not leak. So anything you want to do with it, as long as you don't turn it completely upside down, is perfectly doable. Now, think about it for just a moment. We are imagining that we've got the glass mat in here, and she's like a paper towel, and she holds the electrolyte. Now, imagine that somebody says, well, I like my old battery. It's got a lot of that electric stuff in there, and this one, I shake it, and I don't hear any in there. This must be better. And that's just not true. Imagine you're home, you're walking into the kitchen, you see a little spot on the kitchen counter. What do? Do we walk over to the sink, turn the water on full blast, grab a washcloth, hold it under the running water until it's just pouring off the sink, and then take this dripping mess and put it over on the counter to clean it? No. What do? We only need a small amount of water. We get it on the cloth. We wring it out. It has what it needs to do its job. We clean it up, and we're fine. We don't have to clean up the mess from cleaning up the mess. AGMs are doing just that. We only need the moisture, the contact between the electrolyte and the lead plate, and that's all we need. We don't need all this extra in there. So that means I can make a smaller battery and have more power than the bigger, older one. That's a big plus. Also something interesting. I can take this so we've got the lead plate here, and we've got AGM, lead, AGM, okay, and I've got these leads, and I can turn it up on the end, and I can put it inside here if I want. Or if I want to make it really tight, and remember, the tighter these things are, the less travel is involved in moving energy from one point to the next. It becomes more efficient. I can roll this up, if I will. Now I can turn it up, and it looks like a Coca-Cola can. And take a look at this battery. Can you see? 1, 2, 3. Those are 3 of the cells, 4, 5, 6. These cells are in here, and they're rolled like that on purpose. That allows it to be even more efficient and allows it to do its better. In other words, the current can move out faster. I turn the key in the morning, I get power to my starter right now. And then after the car starts and the generator is trying to recharge the battery, we get power back into the battery right now. So let's discuss a little bit of the meat of what we're talking about here today. Let's imagine that I drive to the mall and I leave my vintage car way out in the parking lot where nobody's going to bump it, and I'm in the mall for about an hour and a half. And I come out, and as I walk out the door of the mall, I'm looking for my car. I see it way out there, and I say, oh, man, I left the lights on. Or maybe I'm driving around in my neighborhood on a weekend afternoon. I'm enjoying it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we start to get a small rain, a shower. What am I going to do? I go home. I go in the garage. The lights are all on inside the garage. And I don't even recognize that the lights in my car are on because I was out in the rain. All I want to do is get in the house and get dry. So I'm in the house, and about an hour and a half later, I come out and I say, oh no, the lights are on. What are we going to do? Let's imagine we're at the mall. I come out, my lights are on. We're all going to do the same thing. We turn the lights off. We say, I hope this works. Put our key in. We turn the key in. And she starts. That's great. We think we're all set. But think about it. These older cars had generators that had 20 to 25 amps of output. 20 to 25 amps of output is a lot to pump through a battery like this. Any battery, it's a lot. But if you've got your car and you've got a voltmeter or a little amp meter inside there, we know that as the RPMs go up, the meter goes up with it. So if I keep the RPMs down, it's not going to put out full capacity or full power to do anything to this. So the secret is drive home on the back roads, shift up whenever you can, keep the RPMs down, and let it gradually come back up. Now, if I don't have that option, if, for example, the only way from the mall back to home is on the highway, well, I'm going to have to spool this motor up. I have no way around that. So what can I do? Well, each headlight in this car draws about 4.5 amps. So if I turn the headlights on, that's about 9 amps. So as I'm driving along and the generator's making a lot of current, the battery's only getting part of it because the headlights are taking the rest. That cuts down on the load on the battery. Now, if I'm at home, and I come out and I say, oh no, I'm in trouble. Okay, if I've got a conventional battery, one of these old capped batteries here, okay, I can go and put my old battery charger right on there and do it as we've already discussed it. Connect it up, make sure she's filled up with liquid before you get started, and just keep an eye that she doesn't get hot. Now, if I've got an AGM battery like this one here, now we've got a bit of a problem. These old batteries were notorious for overcharging. They just were. These chargers just put too much out and batteries suffered for it. Even the old style batteries, it was too much for them oftentimes. But now there's another way to work it. Okay, this is a 386296. This is referred to as a smart charger. What does it do? Well, I'd like to ask you to note this little piece of the illustration. The piece inside is about this big, but I want you to notice just this little bit here. And I've taken a picture of it because we can't see it on the camera. And this is what it's showing us. If I set it here, it's going to be working on small batteries like you would have in a motorcycle or a jet ski or something of that nature there. If I put it here, it's working on automobiles, a battery that you would see in a car. Look at that, AGM. This is an AGM battery. It knows it has to treat this battery differently, and it starts sensing the battery and making adjustments for this kind of battery. So it will take care of us. So we have this option here. Now, if the battery ever gets discharged, we're in trouble. So the secret is quite simple. Take care to keep the battery from ever getting discharged. Okay? Now, if we're going to have to charge the battery or keep it charged, for example, when it's stored, a battery tender, which is what you see here. This is the 386-245. You've seen this in our other video. Okay, this will maintain the battery. Don't use a trickle charger. It's a completely different animal, and it will eventually harm the battery. You want something which is designed to maintain the battery. Also, if you happen to have a smart charger, as you see here, these also serve to maintain a battery. So you can just connect this to the battery, whether it's that kind or this kind, let it sit all winter, and you'll be all fine in the morning. Bottom line, batteries often suffer a shorter life in a vintage car because these cars can sit unused for a while. Driving the car often, using a battery tender or using a smart charger will help the battery in your vintage British car to a longer, happier life. Thank you.